Hey, Disturbing listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion, live on Netflix. Let's watch.
A lot of their concern came from that it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like it was easy for either of us. And we were both trying to get there. We were so in love, but I don't think we knew what the future looked like. And she was concerned that the marriage would fail.
Yeah.
Not to call y'all out, but we are doing a reunion. And I saw some whispering over there. Zach, what did you tell Paul?
Another good question. Yeah. Often these things happen and we never have those questions asked.
Yeah. I just feel, I'm going to be real here, Micah. Like, you're coming after Paul here this whole time, during this entire time when people have been attacking you. Paul has tried to make peace with you this entire time, and I see you over there, and I understand this is hard. It just makes me really angry because it looks like you're here for blood, and it just seems like he's a...
I don't... I mean, I hate to draw this connection, but that's a very lawyery. I mean, I don't want to say some of my best friends are lawyers, but it's a way of advocating that you want someone in your corner, but it seems a little self-convinced. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I mean, Zach knows Micah a billion times better than I do, and is sitting there watching body language and stuff. But for blood, I don't know. I feel like. I guess if you see it through the lens of Micah and Irina are 100% evil. I mean, evil is a strong word, but somewhere in that direction. They just went on the show to get famous. They're not real. They didn't, and neither one of them were really in love. Neither one of them really wanted to marry the other person. We saw their behavior in the pods, and this is all fake. And she's acting like she's sad, and she's trying to make Paul look like he's a bad person. And if you believe that to be true, or you have data to support that, then I guess it would justify-ish, I guess, what he's saying. But from my perspective, I can't relate to what Zach is doing right now. I mean, I commend him for being protective and sticking up for his friend. But if he's not right in his evaluation of Irina and Micah, then there's a different way to support your friend.
Apologizing over here. He's taking accountability for his actions. And and again, it's just my point of view, but I don't think Paul has really apologized. I'm not saying he has to, but he hasn't I modeled several different ways. Now, I don't know if it's justified, but in terms of what we're seeing, Paul could have pretty easily and pretty concisely said, yeah, Micah, I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. That was just really awful. And he was basically indicating that, but it was a way of exhibiting sorrow or empathy for someone, care. Or, yeah, Micah, I see you hurting because I said no at the altar, and I'm sorry. It hurts me to see you hurt. That's all he has to say. He doesn't have to say I'm a horrible person or I made the wrong choice. It's just a human-to-human reaction, right? So I don't think he really did apologize. I'm not saying he's supposed to, but I didn't see that. I whispered to Paul what was happening behind cameras is not what you're seeing. And what she was saying about Paul, what people have told me about the conversations that she had, it sounds like she never was talking about getting married to Paul.
Okay. Interesting. And I kind of believe that. Paul might be very diplomatic in this moment and doesn't want to say, hey, y'all, let me tell you about what Micah was saying away from the cameras and what other people were telling me what Micah was saying. So, I mean, we could see that, right? I was reminded when Bliss pointed out, or Zach pointed out, that when Irina in Mexico texts Bliss and says, you dodged a bullet, when you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Micah and Irina, they have that streak in them. And it's not likely that it just went away after they were out of the pods. I'm guessing it was particularly pronounced in the pods because of the stress that I think they were under, because I think they have a lot of traumas around competition or, tween age issues of bullying or being bullied.
And there are women here who have told me that, and just to come out here and try to make Paul look like this really bad guy that he's not is.
I have no intention of making Paul
you
look
never
bad.
defended him in that entire interaction.
So, okay, wait.
So you're saying you heard?
Yeah, I mean,
even if we just go with what we're seeing, it didn't look like Micah was trying to make him look bad, and Paul wasn't looking bad. I thought the two of them were having, on the scale of things, a mutually enhancing conversation for the most part, from my perspective.
That's not true. Were you there?
So, who here?
I really wish the crowd would just go away. It's so juvenile, the way they're reacting. It's just, I mean, maybe some people love that kind of stuff, but what do you think?
Know what happens beyond the edit. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, and I understand that, but it's like, I'm not here to attack Paul. You have to realize this, the things that I've heard that really hurt and upset me, I just found out. I'm not here to attack him. I'm here because I'm hurt, and I want answers about things that I had never heard before.
Yeah. I wish we knew what, and I'm guessing we'll never know, because I'm guessing Zach and Bliss and others are probably thinking, look, let's just not get into the specifics. And maybe Zach had a little bit of an outburst and a revealing of things that maybe he thought he wouldn't get into. I don't know. I could see it. I could see that if Zach and Bliss and others were to be more honest, they'd be like, oh my God, let me I mean, Bliss, didn't Bliss say that? Or someone said that only 10% of Micah and Irina's behavior was in the show. You know, we could tell you 10 times the amount of stuff. And yeah, I could totally see that. So I think that's what he's referring to. It still doesn't negate the possibility that Micah was legitimately hurt by him saying no, and legitimately did want to say yes, or at least was more on the fence than people think. And it's obviously possible that she was legitimately hurt when Paul said that she wasn't going to be a good mom. It's also possible that if we knew all the details about behind the scenes stuff, that we would all agree wholeheartedly that for Paul to say such a thing. So I don't know. There's just a lot of possibilities.
Heck, you said that people don't think that she wanted to marry Paul ever? I mean, you brought it up, not me.
There have been women who have told me that in the conversations they had with her, very rarely did she ever mention actually getting married to Paul.
Women here, so that...
Okay, I mean, that's pretty circumstantial, right? There are women who told me that in their conversations with her, she didn't talk about getting married to Paul. What does that mean? Like, you heard from other people who heard something that was absent, and thus it means it was absent? You know, yeah, that's not very convincing. If he said something like, not only that, but she also talked about how she was looking forward to dating other, I don't know, something that would indicate a more definitive thing. And like, maybe he's being diplomatic and he just doesn't want to get into it.
Just out to get him.
It was rarely mentioned, and that seems to be the opinions that I've heard. What I would say is that when I was in the car, from my own experiences with Micah, driving her back, she would talk pretty badly about Paul.
What can I ask?
Like what?
Chelsea,
Like
did
she
you
would
think
say
that she
he's the
wanted
guy
to marry him?
I know nothing about
Tiffany, did
their
you think she wanted
relationship.
to marry him?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that is supportive of Zach's thesis here, that behind the scenes, away from Paul, Micah would talk a lot of crap about him, about Paul, and we can see that too. We could see Micah not really understanding that about herself. It's not some volitional thing. We could see it being volitional and a revealing, and that it reveals that she wasn't really into Paul and that she's conniving and manipulative and Machiavellian. But there's, I think, a greater possibility that Micah has this problem in which she chameleonizes herself and assumes that when she's around people, they want to gossip about other people, that they want to talk crap about other people. That's her main mode of bonding with people, is through that kind of triangulation. Maybe she learned that early in life in her family. I don't know. Some kids, sometimes only kids, can be put in that position, as she's an only kid, an only child, when the parents are going through a divorce, because insular families they don't have support systems, or you have, parents who are misguided or stressed out or undifferentiated, or they're shamed into not revealing what's really happening in the home, sometimes will turn to their children. And if you only have one child, then you're getting it from both barrels of both parents. When the other parent is away, it's like, oh my God, can you believe that he did that? And oh my God, your mom, she has an issue, right? I mean, we agree. I don't know. I have no evidence of that, but that could be a breeding ground for that model of bonding with people. And that model of mindset, right? Isn't that normal that that's what we do? And some of you might be able to relate to that, or have partners of yours that are like that have that kind of trauma. So there's a theme of that with Micah, is that when she's in front of Kwame, it's all Kwame. When she's in front of Paul, it's all Paul. When she's in front of Irina, it's all Irina. And when she's not around Irina, she doesn't necessarily have the behaviors that, and I think Irina had a similar kind of thing. So it's hard to know all that detail, but I think that there's something. So we're hearing that when she was with Zach alone, she was talking a lot of crap about Paul. Now, that doesn't mean that she didn't, in her way, have a version of what we would understand to be a deep love and wanting to spend the rest of her life with Paul. And we could imagine, if this hypothesis is somewhere close to the mark, about her having a lack of access to her true feelings, lack of connection with who she is, or some stable identity, a model of this is how you bond with people, this is how you get to know people, this is what makes you feel safer or something. When I'm insecure, I will talk shit about people behind their back. That's what makes me feel good or something. You could imagine that both of those things could be true. You could both love someone and also have that personality problem. And you could also see someone in Zach's position hearing stuff like that and going like, oh my God, she what? And being tricked into believing that that is representative of what she believes behind the scenes, where it could just be how she's, chameleonizing herself, how she feels like she's supposed to in the moment, and she actually doesn't even know who she is underneath all those different presentations. I don't know. It would explain some things that we've seen.
Oh, we found it.
I actually was thinking, I was like, I just know that there was times when me and Zach would talk about, like, do you think they're going to get married? Do you think we're, like, going to get married? And it was like, I think that we're on a TV show. Like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, so many of the couples said they didn't know until
The
they
TV
stood
show
up
that's
there.
called Love is Blind, where you say I do or I don't at the altar.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from Irina is that support for that hypothesis that they went on the show thinking, well, this is a reality TV show. It's a joke. Yeah, I guess we're kind of dating, but it's not serious. There's a lot of ticks in that column, and I think that's what she just kind of revealed. And I also think that they don't realize that that's a weird perspective, or even that they had that perspective. I think they're young. They were 25 at the time, and I know some of you might be younger than 25 and think of yourself. I mean, I'll hear 22-year-olds. I remember when I was 22, I thought I was so old. You're not old. Take it from me. Also, there's just so much to learn and so much to absorb and so much to experience beyond 25. I'm not saying that all 25-year-olds are naive or something, but you could see a 25-year-old not fully comprehending a lot of aspects of life in the similar way that we could imagine a 15-year-old having, the analogy, I was actually talking with my wife about this, and the analogy I came up with was, if you had a 15-year-old that agreed to come on this show and they exhibited that they, on paper anyway, they were like, yeah, I know this is Love is Blind. You're going to meet your fiance and you're going to get married, and that's the purpose of the show. And you could hear them say it, and that you could hear them believing it, and they understand, they consent to what's happening. But we would see evidence and maybe even suspect, regardless of any evidence to the contrary, that they don't really comprehend what they're agreeing to. They don't really understand what they are doing, and they don't really understand other people around them. They think they do, but they don't really understand. So 25-year-olds, you could imagine, with some issues of arrested development or lack of experience or some assumptions that they made, you could imagine that they would have a similar naivete, a similar lack of perspective. Not on purpose, maybe kind of on purpose, but maybe not. Maybe just like they just don't understand, and maybe 10, and they still don't really understand. And 5-10 years from now, they might look back and say like, you know what, I feel like I just didn't get what I was too young. I didn't understand what I was signing up for. So I think that's what we're hearing.
I think that we're on a TV show. Like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, so many of the couples said they didn't know until
The
they
TV
stood up
show that's
there.
called Love is Blind, where you say I do or I
Yeah, and then there's that detail that they watched the show, previous seasons, and Irina is saying, which is true, that a lot of the people will go up to the altar and say they didn't know what they're going to say until they were at the altar, which is an extremely immature, naive thing to think. But I don't think any of them are actually like that. But if you don't understand that and you're watching it, you could believe that that's true. I feel like most people watching, I mean, at least anecdotally, most people watching the show believe that to be true. I don't know why you would believe that to be true, but I feel like a lot of people think, yeah, okay, well, they don't know, and that's what they're saying. Like with Sal and Mal and Zenib and several others, that they didn't know what they're going to say, that's absurd. Of course, they have an idea. Maybe they're kind of wrestling with it a little bit, but the fact that they're just flying blind and then all of a sudden, boom, they just say an answer at the altar. Like I said, we can imagine some people wrestling with it quite a bit, like Natalie and Shane. It sounded like Natalie was totally in it until Shane came home and they had a big fight after the bachelor party, if I remember right. And that's the day of the wedding that Shane was saying, I'm so sorry about last night, don't do this to me. I can't believe you're doing this. And Nata's just like, I can't, the way that you were treating me. And yeah, changing of minds, sure. But you could see someone who is naive and hasn't really fully developed in that way yet, watching the show and interpreting that as, well, it's okay that I'm really unsure about being with this person because that's the way other people on a show, instead of interpreting it the way that I do, which is that you're in it in a very meaningful way, and you might kind of be on the fence, but you're not flippant. I think that the two of them might have been very flippant about the process.
I don't,
We have some clarity.
Can I ask you guys something? Did you guys try and date after the wedding day? You did.
You did? How
And-
long?
Well, it was pretty brief here in Seattle because she had to go back to Arizona. Then I visited her in Arizona briefly. What did I say?
Okay. We're also hearing that they were in Seattle filming. I mean, it's like here in Seattle. So I don't know why I figured they were somewhere else. So all the audience members are from Seattle too? So I don't know what sort of delusion I am under. Like Seattle people wouldn't do that, but of course they would. So he is saying that they dated for a bit and sounds like it didn't work out, which I think is commendable that they gave it a shot. Although I don't know, it seemed like Paul was done. It seemed like Paul was pretty much done at the altar.
Say like a weekend, and it ended pretty quickly after that.
All right.
Okay. I will say, and again, you guys went through it, and we will actually never be able to understand it because since these.
Okay, there's a few questions I would have wished asked, like why didn't it work out? Micah, what was your experience of dating him afterwards? Going after Irina and Micah. Well, more Micah, because Micah hasn't been really gone after. And I'm not saying that you attack her, but just sort of hold her. Like, Micah, why were you talking poorly about Paul behind his back to Zach? Like, what is that? Is that, we've seen other behaviors along those lines. What's going on there? I don't know if Micah would have had a good answer, but, I would have liked to hear her response. And then also asking Irina, so when you were agreeing to marry Zach, how serious was it for you? Were you dead serious when you agreed? Because other couples here were dead serious. We have Tiffany and Brett, who from being engaged, it was a serious thing. It was a very sober decision that they made. How serious were you? I don't know. We did get those questions.
Season 1, we've been a little more removed from you guys because this is your journey, and I know that you feel what you feel. But on another side, I don't think that a lot of people are here, Micah, thinking that you're out for blood. I think that you do want some answers. You are hurt as well. So I think you both have said your piece, and we thank you for coming.
I wouldn't even frame it that Micah was trying to get answers, really. I think she had legitimate pain and seemingly genuine pain that she was expressing, and then also, offering up some question marks. But she wasn't like, tell me, Paul, how come you said that? That wasn't the vibe I was getting.
On and sharing your journey and being extremely vulnerable. I know that this is not easy, and especially that fourth wall of social media.
And I guess to add to the hypothesis about Micah is that in this format, she's chameleonizing herself to the format and presenting a side of herself that is there, but is a side of herself that is more relatable, more human, because she intuits that that's what people want to see. I guess I'll add that, but I tend not to want to believe that. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.